I left my front door unlocked last night. I'm now convinced someone else is living in my house. I never thought much about security until last night. Our neighborhood was the kind of place where people left their garage doors open, and kids played in the streets until dark. My girlfriend Melissa always nagged me about locking up, but I brushed it off. Crime happened in other places, to other people, not to us, not here. Last night I got home late from the gym, arms loaded with groceries in my duffel bag. The apartment door swung open easily. I kicked it shut behind me, dumped everything on the kitchen counter, and headed straight for the shower. Melissa was already asleep, her breathing soft and steady from the bedroom. I didn't think about the door, didn't check the lock, just stripped down and let the hot water wash away the day. When I finally crawled into bed around midnight, the apartment was dark and quiet. Normal, safe, or so I thought. I woke up at 3:17 according to the clock on the nightstand. My mouth was dry. I needed water. The apartment was pitch black, the kind of darkness that makes you question whether your eyes are actually open. I shuffled toward the kitchen, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. That's when I heard it. A sound, subtle, like fabric brushing against a wall. I froze mid-step, every muscle in my body tensing. The sound came from the living room, maybe 15 feet away. My heart kicked into overdrive. Melissa's cat, I told myself. Just the cat, knocking something over. But we didn't have a cat anymore. Bella had died 3 months ago. I stood there in the dark hallway, barely breathing, listening. Nothing. Complete silence now. I was imagining things. Stress from work, too much caffeine. I continued to the kitchen, filled a glass with tap water, and drank it in 3 long gulps. The apartment felt different somehow. Colder. The air had a strange weight to it, like the pressure before a storm. I told myself I was being paranoid, but my hands were shaking as I set the glass in the sink. That's when I noticed the living room window. It was open. Just a crack, maybe 2 inches. I never opened that window. It was painted shut, had been since we moved in 8 months ago. Someone had forced it open. My blood turned to ice. I backed away slowly, my eyes adjusting enough to make out shapes in the darkness. The couch, the TV stand, the bookshelf, everything looked normal. But something felt wrong, terribly wrong. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Nothing, just shadows and darkness. "Melissa?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. No response. I moved quickly back to the bedroom, my pulse racing. She was still there, still asleep, her chest rising and falling peacefully. I wanted to wake her but didn't want to scare her. Not yet. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and turned on the flashlight. The sudden brightness hurt my eyes. I swept the beam across the bedroom, checking the corners, behind the door, inside the closet. Nothing. Everything was exactly as it should be. I was losing my mind. That had to be it. I went back to the living room, using my phone to light the way. The furniture cast long shadows that seemed to move as I passed. I checked behind the couch, inside the coat closet by the front door, even inside the kitchen pantry. Empty. All of it. But the window was definitely open. I could feel the cold night air seeping in. I walked over to close it, and that's when I saw them. Muddy footprints. Small ones, like a woman's shoe, leading from the window across the carpet to the hallway. My hallway. They stopped right outside the bedroom door. Someone had been standing there, watching us sleep. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My legs went weak. I leaned against the wall for support, my phone light trembling in my shaking hand. Someone had been in our apartment, had watched us, had stood outside our bedroom door while we slept. But the footprints didn't lead back to the window. They continued down the hall toward the bathroom and the spare room we used for storage. I followed them, every step feeling like I was walking toward my own death. The bathroom was empty. Shower curtain pulled back, nothing hiding in the tub. The spare room door was closed. I always left it open. Always. I reached for the handle, my entire body vibrating with fear. The metal was cold against my palm. I turned it slowly, carefully, and pushed the door open. The room was packed with boxes, old furniture, things we hadn't unpacked yet. The flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating stacks of cardboard and plastic bins. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. But then I saw it. A sleeping bag, rolled out on the floor behind a stack of boxes, partially hidden from view. A pillow, a backpack. Someone had made a nest in our spare room. Someone had been living here. My mind raced. How long? Days? Weeks? The sleeping bag looked used. The pillow had an indent from someone's head. I stepped closer, my phone light revealing more details. Empty food wrappers, water bottles, a book with a torn cover, and photographs. Dozens of them, spread out on the floor like a shrine. My stomach turned as I recognized the subjects. Me, Melissa, us sleeping, us eating dinner, us watching TV. Someone had been photographing us for days, maybe longer, living in our spare room while we went about our lives, completely unaware. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a box. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. But it was. A sound from behind me. The soft click of a door closing. I spun around, the flashlight beam cutting wildly through the darkness. The bathroom door was now closed. I'd left it open. I know I had. "Who's there?" My voice cracked. betraying my terror. Silence. I moved toward the bathroom, every instinct screaming at me to run, to get Melissa and get out. But I needed to know, needed to see who had violated our home, our privacy, our lives. I grabbed the bathroom door handle and yanked it open. Empty. But the shower curtain was now closed. I'd left it open. I'd checked behind it not 2 minutes ago. Someone was behind that curtain. I could feel them, could sense their presence like an electric charge in the air. My hand shook as I reached for the curtain. I grabbed the plastic and ripped it aside in one violent motion. A woman stood in the tub. Small, maybe 5'2", with tangled dark hair and wild eyes. She wore dirty jeans and a black hoodie. She smiled at me. Not a threatening smile. Something worse. Something knowing and intimate. "Hi, Nathan," she said, her voice soft and familiar, like we were old friends. She knew my name. I opened my mouth to scream, to shout, to do something, but she moved faster than I could process. She stepped out of the tub and raised her hand. Something glinted in the dim light. A syringe. She jabbed it into my neck before I could react. The sting was sharp and immediate. I stumbled backward, crashing into the sink. My legs gave out. The phone fell from my hand, its light spinning wildly across the ceiling before everything went dark. When I woke up, I was in my bed. Sunlight streamed through the window. My head pounded like someone had used it for drum practice. Melissa was shaking my shoulder, her face creased with worry. "Nathan, wake up, you're going to be late for work." I sat up too fast, the room spinning. "Someone was here, last night, a woman. What are you talking about?" Melissa looked at me like I'd grown a second head. I stumbled out of bed, my body aching, and ran to the spare room. I threw open the door. The room looked exactly as it always did. Boxes stacked neatly, old furniture covered with sheets. No sleeping bag, no pillow, no backpack, no photographs. "Nathan, seriously, what's going on?" Melissa stood in the doorway, her arms crossed. "There was someone here. She was living in this room. She had pictures of us. I checked the bathroom. The shower curtain was open, the way I always left it. I ran to the living room. The window was closed and locked. No muddy footprints on the carpet. Everything was normal. Perfectly, impossibly normal. "You had a nightmare," Melissa said gently. "You've been stressed, working too much. Maybe you should stay home today." But my neck hurt. I touched it and felt a small puncture wound, tender and swollen. That was real. The syringe had been real. "I need to check something." I grabbed my phone and scrolled through the photos. Nothing unusual, just the normal pictures we'd taken. Dinners, selfies, random shots of the apartment. Then I saw it. A photo I didn't remember taking. Melissa and me sleeping, taken from the bedroom doorway. The timestamp was from last night, 3:42 a.m. "Did you take this?" I showed her the phone. She squinted at the screen. "No, I was asleep. You must have taken it." "I didn't take this." She looked at me with growing concern. "Nathan, you're scaring me." I went through more photos. There were dozens of them, all taken at night, all of us sleeping. The angles were wrong, taken from positions where neither of us would have been standing. Someone else had taken these photos. Someone else had been in our apartment, night after night, documenting us. "We need to call the police," I said. "Someone broke in." Melissa took the phone from me and looked through the photos herself. Her face went pale. "These are... Nathan, when were these taken?" "I don't know, but look at the dates. This one's from 6 days ago. This one's from 2 weeks ago. Someone's been coming into our apartment while we sleep." We called the police. 2 officers showed up an hour later, looking bored and skeptical. I showed them everything. The photos, the puncture wound on my neck. I described the woman in the bathroom, the sleeping bag, the muddy footprints. They took notes, but their expressions said they didn't believe me. "Sir, there's no sign of forced entry," the older officer said. "The window locks work fine. The door was locked when we got here. I told you I left the door unlocked last night. That's how she got in." "And you saw this woman?" "Yes. She was in my bathroom. She injected me with something." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "The puncture wound could be from anything. A bug bite, irritation. Have you been using any drugs, sir?" "What? No. Sometimes people have vivid dreams that feel very real, especially if they're under stress or taking certain medications. I'm not making this up. Look at the photos." The younger officer looked at my phone again. "These could have been taken by anyone. Could be you sleepwalking. Could be your girlfriend playing a prank." "I wouldn't do that," Melissa said quietly. "This isn't funny." "We'll file a report," the older officer said. "But without evidence of a break-in or any stolen property, there's not much we can do. I'd suggest getting your locks changed and maybe installing a security camera." They left. I stood in the living room, feeling violated and dismissed. The police didn't believe me. I wasn't even sure Melissa believed me, but I knew what I'd seen, what I'd experienced. Someone had been in our home. Someone was still out there. I spent the day installing cameras, 3 of them. One in the living room, one in the hallway, one covering the front door. They connected to an app on my phone. I could watch our apartment from anywhere, get alerts if there was any movement. Melissa thought I was overreacting, but she didn't stop me. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. The building settling, the neighbors upstairs, the wind outside. I kept checking the camera feeds on my phone, watching the empty rooms in grainy night vision. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. At 4:13 a.m., my phone buzzed with an alert. Movement detected in the hallway. I pulled up the feed with trembling hands. A figure stood in the hallway, facing the camera. The woman from the bathroom. She wore the same black hoodie, her face partially obscured by shadows. She stared directly at the camera, not moving, just watching. Then she raised her hand and waved. A slow, deliberate wave. Before I could react, the feed cut out. All 3 cameras went offline simultaneously. I jumped out of bed and ran to the hallway. Empty. The camera was still mounted on the wall, its LED light dark. Dead. I checked the other cameras. All offline. All dead. Nathan? Melissa's voice came from the bedroom, thick with sleep. What's wrong? She was here. She was right here. I saw her on the camera. Melissa appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. There's no one here. The cameras are dead. She killed them. I checked my phone again. The recording had saved before the cameras went offline. I pulled it up and showed Melissa. There was the woman standing in our hallway, waving at the camera. Melissa's face went white. Who is that? I don't know. But she's real. You see her now, right? You believe me? Melissa nodded slowly, her hand over her mouth. We need to leave. Right now. No. We need to find her. She's been living here. She knows where we live. She'll just come back. I grabbed a baseball bat from the bedroom closet. Stay behind me. We searched the entire apartment. Every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. Nothing. She was gone. But how? We'd been awake. The front door was still locked from the inside. The windows were sealed. There was no way out, unless she was still here, hiding somewhere we hadn't thought to look. I went back to the spare room and started pulling out boxes, checking behind furniture, examining every inch of the space. That's when I found it. Behind the old dresser, partially hidden by shadows, was a door. Not a regular door. A small access panel, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, built into the wall. I'd never noticed it before. Never had any reason to look behind that dresser. I pulled the dresser away from the wall, my heart pounding. The access panel had 4 screws holding it in place. Someone had recently removed those screws. The paint around them was chipped and fresh. What is that? Melissa whispered. Some kind of maintenance access, I think. For pipes or electrical. I grabbed a screwdriver and removed the screws. The panel came away easily, revealing a dark space behind the wall. I shined my phone light inside. A tunnel. Narrow but passable. It ran between the walls, connecting our apartment to somewhere. She's been using this, I said. She's been living in the walls. Melissa made a small sound of horror. We need to call the police again. Show them this. They won't do anything. We need to follow it. Find where it goes. Are you insane? She's been watching us, Melissa, living here. God knows what else she's been doing, what she's planning. We need to end this. Before Melissa could argue, I crawled through the access panel. The space between the walls was cramped and dusty, filled with pipes and electrical wiring. I had to crawl on my hands and knees, the phone light barely illuminating the path ahead. Behind me, I heard Melissa reluctantly following. The tunnel went on for what felt like forever. My back ached, my knees burned, but I kept going. After maybe 30 feet, the tunnel opened up into a larger space. I emerged into what looked like a utility room. Old water heaters, electrical panels, building maintenance equipment. But in the corner, someone had set up a living space. A mattress on the floor, blankets, food supplies, and covering every inch of the walls, taped up like wallpaper, were photographs, hundreds of them, all of Melissa and me, sleeping, eating, showering, making love, every intimate moment of our lives, documented and displayed. My stomach heaved. Oh God, Melissa breathed beside me. Nathan, what is this? But the photographs weren't all of us. Some showed other couples, other apartments, other victims, dozens of them, going back years. Each set of photos had names written beneath them in careful handwriting. Previous tenants, I realized. She's been doing this for years, to everyone who's lived in our apartment. Why? Melissa's voice was barely a whisper. Why would anyone do this? A voice answered from the shadows. Because someone has to watch. The woman stepped into view. She was older than I'd thought, maybe 40, with weathered skin and eyes that didn't quite focus right. She held something in her hand. A knife, long and sharp and recently cleaned. You shouldn't have found this place, she said calmly. No one's ever found it before. They always just moved away eventually, thinking they were going crazy. But you had to keep digging. Who are you? I demanded, gripping the baseball bat tighter. Why are you doing this? My name is Iris. I've lived in these walls for 8 years, since my husband died in that apartment. Our apartment. The one you're living in now. She smiled, but her eyes remained cold. He died in the bedroom. Heart attack. The landlord never told you that, did they? They just cleaned it up and rented it out again. But I couldn't leave. This was our home. So I made my own space, my own way to stay close. You've been stalking people for 8 years? Melissa's voice shook with rage and fear. Terrorizing them? I'm protecting them, Iris insisted. Watching over them, making sure they're safe, making sure no one breaks in, no one hurts them. I'm the guardian of this building. You're insane, I said. Iris's expression darkened. You don't understand. You can't understand. She moved toward us, the knife raised. I swung the bat. It connected with her arm, sending the knife clattering across the floor. Iris screamed, a raw, animalistic sound, and lunged at me. We crashed to the ground, her hands clawing at my face. She was stronger than she looked, fueled by years of isolation and delusion. I tried to push her off, but she had the advantage of surprise. Her nails raked across my cheek, drawing blood. Melissa grabbed the knife from the floor and screamed, "Get off him!" Iris froze, looking at Melissa with something like betrayal. "You don't understand. I was protecting you. Both of you. There are bad people in this world, dangerous people. I kept them away. By stalking us? By drugging Nathan?" Melissa's hand shook, but she kept the knife pointed at Iris. "You're the dangerous one." Something in Iris broke then. I could see it in her eyes. The delusion cracking, reality seeping in through the gaps. She started to cry, her body shaking with sobs. "I just wanted to keep you safe. I just wanted to not be alone." I pulled myself away from her and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. The police came within 10 minutes. They found everything. The photographs, the tunnel, the evidence of years of stalking and breaking and entering. They took Iris away in handcuffs, still crying, still insisting she'd been protecting us. The building manager showed up an hour later, pale and shocked. "I had no idea," he kept saying. 8 years and I had no idea she was living in the walls. They sealed the access panel, offered to move us to a different unit, offered to let us out of the lease. But Melissa and I both knew we couldn't stay. The apartment would never feel safe again. We packed our things that same day. But before we left, I needed answers. I needed to understand how this had happened, how someone could live undetected for 8 years. The building manager, a nervous man named Leonard, agreed to meet me at his office. He pulled out old files, maintenance records, blueprints of the building. "This complex was built in 1962, he explained. Back then, they built these utility tunnels between units for easier access to plumbing and electrical. Most modern buildings don't have them anymore. And you never checked them? Why would I? They're supposed to be sealed. Maintenance hasn't needed to access them in decades." He spread out a blueprint on his desk. The tunnels connected every apartment on our floor, snaking through the walls like a maze. "She could have accessed any unit on the floor," I said. Leonard nodded grimly. "We're inspecting all of them now, and we found something else." He pulled out a folder and handed it to me. Inside were police reports. 3 from the past 8 years. Complaints from previous tenants about feeling watched, about missing items, about strange noises in the walls. All dismissed, all ignored. "These people tried to tell you," I said, anger rising in my throat. "They tried to warn you something was wrong. I thought they were just, paranoid. City living makes people anxious. No, they were right. And you did nothing." Leonard had no response. I left his office disgusted. The system had failed. The police had failed. The building management had failed. And people had suffered because of it. Over the next few days, more victims came forward. 17 people who'd lived in the building during Iris's 8-year occupation. Each had their own horror story. A woman named Julie had woken up to find her hair had been cut while she slept. Another man, David, had discovered clothes missing from his dresser. A couple found photos of themselves on a stranger's Facebook page, photos taken from inside their apartment. All of them had reported something. All of them had been dismissed. The media picked up the story. "Woman lives in walls for 8 years" became a national headline. News vans parked outside our building. Reporters tried to interview everyone who'd lived there. Melissa and I declined. We just wanted to move on, to forget. But forgetting wasn't possible. The photos Iris had taken haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Melissa and me, vulnerable and unaware, documented in our most private moments. The violation wasn't just physical, it was psychological. She'd stolen our sense of safety, our peace of mind. Melissa started having panic attacks. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every shadow looked like someone watching. Every sound meant danger. I took her to a therapist, a woman named Dr. Reeves, who specialized in trauma. "What you're experiencing is normal," Dr. Reeves explained. "Your home was violated. Your trust was broken. It's going to take time to heal." "How much time?" Melissa asked, her voice small. "That depends. Everyone heals differently. But you need to give yourself permission to feel scared, to feel angry. Those emotions are valid." We attended therapy together twice a week. Slowly, painfully, we began to process what had happened. But healing isn't linear. Some days were better than others. We moved into a new apartment across town. Ground floor, 1 entrance, windows that faced the street, no utility tunnels, no hidden access points. I installed 6 cameras, changed the locks 3 times, put sensors on every window and door. Melissa thought I was going overboard, but she didn't stop me. Better paranoid than vulnerable. 3 weeks after we moved, I got a call from a detective. Detective Ramirez, assigned to Iris's case. "Mr. Garrett, we need to talk. Can you come to the station?" I went alone. Melissa couldn't handle more police interviews. The station was busy, phones ringing, officers moving between desks. Ramirez led me to a small interview room. "We've been going through Iris's possessions," he said, "and we found something concerning." He placed a laptop on the table between us. This was in her space. We cracked the password yesterday. He opened it, and turned the screen toward me. My stomach dropped. The laptop contained folders, dozens of them, each labeled with a name and address. Not just people from our building, people from across the city, hundreds of them. She wasn't just stalking your building, Ramirez said. She had a network, other locations, other victims. How is that possible? She was living in our walls. We think she had help, someone on the outside, someone who gave her access to other buildings. He clicked through the folders. Each contained photos, personal information, schedules, habits, a complete dossier on strangers' lives. Who would help her do this? I asked. We don't know yet, but we're investigating. Some of these people reported break-ins, stalking, identity theft. We think it might be connected to a larger operation. What kind of operation? Ramirez hesitated. Blackmail, possibly. Or worse. Some of these targets are high-profile. Politicians, business owners, people with money and secrets. The room felt too small suddenly. Too hot. Are you saying Iris was part of some kind of criminal organization? We're saying it's possible. She may have been the surveillance component of something bigger. I left the station feeling sick. What I'd thought was an isolated incident, one disturbed woman, was potentially something far more sinister. When I got home, Melissa was waiting. I told her everything. She listened in silence, her face growing paler with each word. We need to leave the city, she said when I finished. We need to go somewhere they can't find us. Who? Iris is in custody. She can't hurt us. Not Iris. Whoever she was working with. Nathan. If this is bigger than her, if there are other people involved, we're witnesses. We're targets. She wasn't wrong. I called Ramirez and asked about protective custody. He said it wasn't necessary yet. They had no evidence we were in danger, but he'd keep us informed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed watching the camera feeds on my phone. The living room, the hallway, the front door, all quiet, all normal. But normal didn't feel safe anymore. At 2:30 a.m., movement on the front door camera. A figure approached. Tall, wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. They stopped at our door and tried the handle. Locked. They tried again, harder this time. Then they pulled something from their pocket. A lockpick. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 while shaking Melissa awake. Someone's trying to break in, I whispered. She bolted upright, eyes wide with terror. We could hear it now. Metal scraping against metal. The lock being manipulated. I grabbed the bat and positioned myself between the bedroom door and Melissa. The front door opened. Footsteps in the living room. Slow and deliberate. Whoever it was knew we were home, knew we were awake, didn't care. Police are on the way, I shouted. Get out or I'll defend myself. The footsteps stopped. Silence for a long moment. Then a voice. Male. Calm. We just want to talk, Nathan. About what you know. About what you told the police. I don't know anything. Leave us alone. Laughter. Cold and humorless. Iris talked to you. Showed you things. We need to know what she said. The bedroom door started to open. I swung the bat before I could think. It connected with something solid. A grunt of pain. The door slammed shut again. You're making this harder than it needs to be, the voice said. More footsteps now. Multiple people. They'd brought backup. Melissa was calling 911 on her phone, giving them our address, begging them to hurry. The bedroom window shattered. Glass exploded inward as someone climbed through from the fire escape. A woman this time, ski mask covering her face. She lunged at Melissa. I swung the bat again, catching her in the ribs. She went down hard, but the bedroom door burst open. 2 men rushed in. I couldn't fight them both. One tackled me, slamming me against the wall. The bat clattered from my hands. The other grabbed Melissa, his hand over her mouth to stop her screaming. Stop! A new voice. Authoritative. The men froze. Detective Ramirez stood in the doorway, gun drawn, 2 uniformed officers behind him. Let them go. Now! The man holding Melissa released her and raised his hands. The one pinning me backed away slowly. Within minutes, all 4 intruders were in handcuffs. Ramirez checked on us, his face grim. Are you hurt? No, I managed. What's happening? Who are these people? That's what we're about to find out. They took the intruders away. Ramirez stayed behind to take our statements. We've been watching your building, he explained. After we found that laptop, we suspected Iris's associates might come after you. We had units in the area. Why didn't you warn us? Melissa demanded. We thought about moving you to a safe house, but we needed to catch them in the act. I'm sorry. I know that's not what you want to hear. You used us as bait, I said. He didn't deny it. These people are dangerous. They've been running an organized stalking and blackmail ring for years. Iris was just one operative. We needed to draw them out. And we were expendable? Melissa's voice shook with rage. No, we had eyes on you the entire time. You were never in real danger. We were attacked, and we stopped it. Everyone's safe now. I wanted to punch him, wanted to scream, but I was too exhausted, too traumatized, too done with all of it. What happens now? I asked. Now we prosecute, all of them, Iris, her associates, everyone involved, and you'll need to testify. No, Melissa said immediately. No way. We're not testifying. We're not putting ourselves through that. Your testimony is crucial. Without it, find another way, I interrupted. We're done. We've given enough. Ramirez looked like he wanted to argue, but nodded. I understand. But think about it. These people destroyed lives. Dozens of victims. Maybe hundreds. You have a chance to stop them. He left us with his card and a promise to keep us updated. Melissa and I sat in silence for a long time after he was gone. The apartment felt contaminated now. First Iris, then her associates. Nowhere was safe. I want to leave, Melissa said finally. Not just the apartment, the city, the state. I want to go somewhere they can't find us. Where? I don't care. Anywhere. We can start over. New names, new jobs, new lives. It was extreme. But everything about our situation was extreme. We spent the next week planning. Sold everything we couldn't fit in 2 suitcases. Closed our bank accounts. Canceled our phones. Told no one where we were going. The day before we left, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Nathan? It's Iris. My blood ran cold. How are you calling me? They let me make one call. I used it for you. Why? Because I need you to know something. I need you to understand. I understand enough. You're sick. You need help. No, you don't understand. I wasn't the first. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The building. There's something wrong with it. Something in the walls. It makes people do things. Makes them watch. Makes them need... Stop. I don't want to hear your excuses. It's not an excuse. Her voice rose desperately. I lived there with my husband for 2 years before he died. Normal years. Happy years. But after he died, after I moved into the walls, something changed. I started hearing voices, feeling urges. The building wanted me to watch, to document, to collect. You're insane. Maybe, but ask yourself, Nathan, in those 8 months you lived there, did you ever feel like you were being watched, even before you knew about me? I had. Multiple times. That prickling sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of eyes on me when I was alone. That's normal paranoia, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Is it? Or is it something else? Check the building's history. Really check it. You'll see I'm not the first, won't be the last. She hung up. I stood there holding the phone, her words echoing in my mind. I told myself it was manipulation, gaslighting, an attempt to justify the unjustifiable. But that night I couldn't sleep. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. The building's history, past tenants, police reports. What I found made my skin crawl. The building was constructed in 1962 on the site of a former psychiatric hospital. That hospital had been shut down in 1959 after multiple patient deaths, accusations of abuse, experimental treatments. They'd demolished it and built luxury apartments in its place. And since then, the building had a pattern. Every 10 years or so, something happened. 1968. A tenant named Michael Garza was found dead in his apartment, surrounded by thousands of photographs of his neighbors. Ruled a suicide. 1979. A woman named Patricia Lane was discovered living in the basement, having created an elaborate surveillance system to watch the building's residents. She was institutionalized. 1991. 2 brothers were arrested for breaking into apartments and stealing personal items. They claimed the building told them to do it, dismissed as a defense tactic. 2003. A maintenance worker was caught with hidden cameras installed throughout the building. He disappeared before trial. And now, Iris. 8 years of living in the walls, watching, documenting, believing she was protecting people. The pattern was undeniable. Something about that building attracted or created watchers, made people obsessed with surveillance, with violation, with the intimate details of others' lives. I showed Melissa my research. She read it in silence, her face growing paler with each page. We're leaving tomorrow, she said when she finished, and we're never coming back. But what about the other people living there? What if Iris was right? What if there's something about that building that... Not our problem, Melissa interrupted. We barely escaped with our lives. We're not investigating some cursed building conspiracy. She was right. We couldn't save everyone. We could barely save ourselves. The next morning, we loaded our car and drove. No destination, just away. We drove for 6 hours before stopping in a small town in Nevada. Population 3,000. One main street. No tall buildings. No apartments with utility tunnels. We rented a house. Small, 1-story, with windows we could see out of from every room. I got a job at the local hardware store. Melissa found work at the library. Simple lives. Quiet lives. For 3 months, everything was fine. We started to relax. Started to believe we'd escaped. Then I started noticing things. Small things at first. Items moved in the house. A book I'd left on the coffee table now on the shelf. A cup in the sink I didn't remember using. Keys not where I'd left them. Are you moving my stuff? I asked Melissa. No. Are you moving mine? We stared at each other. The same fear reflected in both our eyes. It was starting again. I installed cameras. Checked the locks obsessively. Searched every inch of the house for hidden spaces, secret doors, anything. Nothing. But the disturbances continued. More items moved. Food disappearing from the fridge. Strange sounds at night. Footsteps when we were both in bed. One night I woke up to find Melissa standing at the foot of the bed. Just standing there, staring at me. Melissa? No response. Her eyes were open but unseeing. Melissa? Wake up. She blinked slowly. Nathan? Why am I... She looked down at her hands. She was holding a camera. My camera, the one I'd been using to document the strange occurrences. I don't remember. She dropped it like it burned her. I don't remember getting out of bed. You were sleepwalking. I don't sleepwalk. I've never sleepwalked in my life. We checked the camera's memory. She'd taken photos. Dozens of them. All of me sleeping. From different angles. Different positions. I didn't do this, she whispered. Nathan, I didn't, I swear. I believed her. But if she hadn't done it consciously, what did that mean? Was she being controlled? Influenced? The next day, I called Dr. Reeves, our therapist from the city. Explained everything that was happening. It sounds like you're both experiencing severe PTSD, she said. The trauma from your experience is manifesting in paranoia and possibly dissociative episodes. But the items are actually moving. The photos are real. Nathan, trauma can make us perceive things that aren't there. Our brains try to recreate the danger to make sense of what happened. It's a protection mechanism. So, you think we're imagining it? I think you should both come back to the city and resume regular therapy. What you're experiencing is serious. We drove back the next week, moved into a hotel while we looked for a new apartment. Started therapy 3 times a week. Dr. Reeves diagnosed us both with severe PTSD and prescribed medication. The mind is powerful, she explained. After what you went through, it's not surprising you're seeing threats everywhere. Your brain is stuck in survival mode. The medication helped. The paranoia lessened. The strange occurrences stopped. We found a new apartment. 4th floor. Corner unit. Good security. No weird history. Started rebuilding our lives. Again. 6 months passed. Then a year. Life began to feel normal. We got engaged. Started planning a wedding. Began to believe we'd finally moved past the trauma. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, I got another call from Detective Ramirez. Nathan, I thought you should know. Iris died yesterday. What happened? Suicide. In her cell. She left a note. What did it say? Silence for a moment. She said she was sorry, that she tried to fight it but couldn't, and she said it's already found you. What does that mean? I don't know. I thought I should tell you, in case. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. I thanked him and hung up. Melissa noticed my expression immediately. What's wrong? Nothing. Wrong number. I couldn't tell her. Couldn't add to her anxiety. Not before the wedding. But Iris's final message haunted me. It's already found you. What had found us? The building's curse? Our trauma? Something else entirely? The wedding went ahead as planned. Small ceremony. Just close friends and family. Melissa looked beautiful. I tried to focus on the moment, on our future, on moving forward, but I couldn't shake the feeling. That sensation of being watched, of eyes on me even when no one was there. During the reception, I stepped outside for air. The venue was a restored barn in the countryside. Beautiful, peaceful, far from the city and all its horrors. I stood in the darkness, looking up at the stars, trying to convince myself everything was fine. Beautiful night. I spun around. A woman stood behind me. Older, maybe 60, with silver hair and kind eyes. I didn't recognize her. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you, she said. I'm Ruth, friend of your aunt's. Oh, nice to meet you. She smiled. Your aunt tells me you've been through quite an ordeal recently. Some trouble in the city? Something like that. We're past it now. Are you? Her smile didn't waver, but something in her tone changed. I wonder, what do you mean? Just that trauma has a way of following us, becoming part of us, changing who we are. She stepped closer. You've been watching, haven't you? Checking the locks, monitoring the cameras, looking over your shoulder. My heart rate picked up. How do you know that? Because I can see it in your eyes. The same look I've seen before, in others like you, others like me. Victims of surveillance, people who've been watched so long they can't stop being aware of it, can't stop looking for the watchers. She pulled out a business card and handed it to me. There's a support group, people who've been through similar experiences. It might help. I took the card. It listed an address in the city, meeting times. I don't need a support group, I'm fine. Of course, but if you change your mind. She walked away, disappearing back into the barn. I looked at the card again. Support group for surveillance victims. Meets every Thursday at 7 p.m. I almost threw it away, but something made me keep it. After the honeymoon, Melissa and I settled into married life. She got promoted at work. I started taking online classes. We talked about buying a house, having kids, building a future, but the feeling never went away. The sensation of being watched. I started checking the apartment multiple times before bed, making sure all the cameras were working, reviewing footage for any anomalies. Melissa noticed. You're doing it again, she said one night. Doing what? Getting obsessive. About security, about the cameras. I'm just being careful. No, you're spiraling. We need to go back to therapy. I'm fine. You're not fine, neither am I. But we can't let this control our lives forever. She was right. But knowing that and stopping it were different things. I thought about Ruth's card, the support group. Maybe talking to others who'd been through similar experiences would help. The following Thursday, I went to the address on the card. It was a community center in a quiet neighborhood. A sign in the lobby directed me to room 204. I climbed the stairs, my heart pounding. What was I doing here? I wasn't a victim anymore. I'd moved on, but I pushed open the door anyway. 8 people sat in a circle. Ruth stood when she saw me. Nathan, I'm glad you came. She introduced me to the group. Each person had their own story. Karen, who'd been stalked by a coworker for 3 years. David, who'd discovered his landlord had been secretly filming him. Lisa, whose ex-husband had tracked her every movement through spyware. Anthony, who'd been blackmailed by someone who'd hacked his devices. Each story was different, but the aftermath was the same. Paranoia, hypervigilance, an inability to feel safe. We've all been violated, Ruth explained. Had our privacy stolen, our sense of security shattered, and we're all trying to rebuild. How long have you been coming here? I asked Karen. 3 years. It helps. Some days more than others. Does it ever go away? The feeling? She smiled sadly. Not entirely, but it gets easier to manage. You learn to distinguish between real threats and perceived ones. Over the next few months, I attended every meeting. Hearing others' stories helped, knowing I wasn't alone, that what I was experiencing was normal. Melissa noticed the change. You seem better, she said. More present. I am. I think I'm finally processing everything. Good, because I have news. She smiled. I'm pregnant. The joy was immediate and overwhelming. We were going to be parents, have a family, build something new and beautiful from the ashes of our trauma. But with the joy came new fears. What if I passed my paranoia to our child? What if I couldn't protect them? What if something happened? We're going to be okay, Melissa assured me. We've survived worse than this. She was right. We'd survived Iris, survived her associates, survived our own trauma. We could handle parenthood. The pregnancy progressed normally. We moved to a bigger apartment, prepared the nursery, took parenting classes. I continued going to the support group. Ruth became something like a mentor. She'd been through her own surveillance ordeal decades ago and had dedicated her life to helping others. The key, she told me, is accepting that you'll never feel completely safe again, but you can still live, still love, still find joy. Our daughter was born in March. We named her Sophie. She was perfect, tiny and fragile and completely dependent on us. Holding her for the first time, I felt something shift. The fear was still there, would always be there, but it was tempered now by something stronger. Love, purpose, the need to protect not from paranoia, but from genuine care. Weeks passed. Sophie grew. Melissa returned to work. We settled into a new routine. Then when Sophie was 3 months old, I noticed something while reviewing the nursery camera footage. A figure, just for a second, standing in the doorway, then gone. I watched it again, and again. Definitely someone. But who? How? I checked all the doors and windows, locked. The main camera showed no one entering or leaving. I showed Melissa. She went pale. We need to call the police. But I'd learned from last time. I contacted Ramirez directly. He came within an hour, reviewed the footage. Could be a glitch, he said. Digital artifacts sometimes look like figures. Or it could be real. Nathan, after everything, I understand why you're concerned. But sometimes a glitch is just a glitch. He was trying to help, trying to keep me from spiraling. But I knew what I'd seen. Over the next few days, I caught 3 more glimpses. Always brief. Always in doorways or corners. Never long enough to identify who it was. I installed more cameras, 15 in total, covering every angle of every room. Melissa thought I was going too far, but she didn't stop me. She was scared too. Then one night, while watching the live feed, I saw it. A camera turning, adjusting its angle, moving on its own. Except cameras don't move on their own. Someone was controlling it remotely. Someone had hacked into our system. I immediately disconnected everything, pulled all the cameras down, destroyed the hard drives. We're being watched again, I told Melissa. Someone's hacking our security system. How is that possible? We changed everything. New accounts, new passwords. I don't know, but it's happening. She looked at me with something like pity. Nathan, maybe this is the PTSD. Maybe you're seeing patterns that aren't there. You saw the figure in the doorway. You said so yourself. I saw something. But maybe it was a glitch. Maybe we're both so traumatized we're creating threats. So you think I'm crazy? I think we've been through hell and it's affecting how we see the world. I think we need help. She was right. But I was also right. I could feel it. Something was wrong. I went back to the support group, told them everything. Ruth listened carefully, her expression grave. Nathan, I need to tell you something. Something I should have mentioned before. What? This support group. It's not just for healing. It's also for protection. Protection from what? From them, the watchers, the people who violate privacy for profit or pleasure. They're organized, networked, and once you've been a victim, you're marked. They share information, targets. Some of them see it as a game. How many people can they surveil? How long before the victim notices? You're saying there's an organized network of stalkers? Yes, and they don't stop. Even when one gets caught, others continue. It's a community. They support each other. Trade techniques. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because you weren't ready to hear it. You needed to heal first. But now you need to know the truth. She pulled out a laptop. We've been tracking them. The group members and I. Documenting their methods. Identifying their members. We've gathered evidence. Lots of it. We're preparing to go public. To expose them. Why haven't you already? Because we need more. More victims willing to testify. More concrete proof. More leverage to force law enforcement to take this seriously. She looked at me intently. We need you, Nathan. Your case with Iris led to arrests. It exposed a cell of their network. But there are more. Many more. Help us stop them. I thought about Sophie, about the figure in the doorway, about spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. What do you need me to do? Over the next 6 months, I worked with Ruth's group. We compiled evidence, interviewed victims, built a case so comprehensive it couldn't be ignored. We discovered that the network had been operating for over 20 years. Hundreds of victims, dozens of perpetrators. Some did it for blackmail, others for sexual gratification, some simply because they could. They had forums, chat rooms, guides on how to hack security systems, install hidden cameras, gain access to homes. It was a subculture. Hidden, but vast. We took everything to the FBI, not local police. Federal agents who specialized in cybercrimes and organized stalking. They were skeptical at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. They launched a nationwide investigation. Arrests started happening, small ones at first, then bigger fish. People who'd been operating in the shadows for years, suddenly exposed. The media picked up the story. Nationwide stalking network exposed became headline news. Victims started coming forward. More evidence emerged. The investigation expanded. And then they came for me, not the FBI, the watchers, the ones who hadn't been caught yet, who blamed me for exposing them. It started with threats, anonymous messages. You should have stayed quiet. You've made a terrible mistake. Watch your family. I took them to the FBI. They offered protective custody, a safe house for me, Melissa, and Sophie. We moved in within a day. The safe house was suburban, unremarkable. Agents stationed outside 24/7. We were told it would be temporary, just until the major arrests were complete. But temporary became weeks. Weeks became months. Sophie learned to crawl in a safe house, started babbling her first words surrounded by armed guards. It wasn't a life. It was existence. Melissa was falling apart. I could see it. The stress, the isolation, the constant fear. We can't do this forever, she said one night. I know. So what do? We fight back. We finish this. The FBI had been building a case against the network's leadership. A group of 12 individuals who coordinated operations, provided resources, protected members. Taking them down would cripple the entire organization. But they needed witnesses, people willing to testify in court. I volunteered. So did 15 other victims from Ruth's group. The trial lasted 3 months. Every day in court was torture, reliving the trauma, being cross-examined by defense attorneys who tried to paint us as paranoid, unreliable, mentally ill. But we persisted, and the evidence was too strong. Security footage, digital trails, testimonies from former members. The jury deliberated for 2 days, guilty on all counts. 12 members of the leadership sentenced to decades in prison. Dozens of associates arrested in coordinated raids across the country. The network was broken, not destroyed. These things never fully die, but crippled. Ruth called me after the verdict. You did it. You helped stop them. We all did. No, you were the catalyst. If you hadn't fought back, if you just accepted being a victim, none of this would have happened. I wasn't sure that was true, but it felt good to hear. The FBI cleared us to leave protective custody. We moved back to the city. Different apartment, different neighborhood. A fresh start. Again. Sophie was walking now, talking in short sentences, growing up without any memory of the chaos that had defined her first year. Melissa and I were different too. Harder, more cautious, but also stronger. We'd survived. More than survived. We'd fought back, made a difference. 1 year after the trial, Ruth's support group held a celebration. All the members who'd helped expose the network. We shared stories, hugged, cried, celebrated our victory, and mourned what we'd lost in the process. What will you do now? Ruth asked me. Live, I said simply. Just live. No more fighting, no more investigating, just being a husband and father. She smiled. That sounds perfect. But life is never that simple. 2 months later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a flash drive and a note. You didn't get all of us. We're still watching. We'll always be watching. I took it to the FBI immediately. They analyzed the flash drive. It contained surveillance footage of me, of Melissa, of Sophie, recent footage from the past week. Someone was still watching us, despite everything, despite the arrests and the trial. They'd never stopped. The FBI launched a new investigation, but I knew how this would end. They'd catch a few more. But there would always be others. Always someone watching from the shadows. That's when I made a decision. I couldn't spend my life running. Couldn't raise Sophie in fear. So I did something radical. I went public, completely public. I started a blog detailing everything. My experiences, the network, how surveillance victims can protect themselves. I gave interviews, spoke at conferences, became the face of surveillance victims advocacy. The logic was simple. If I was going to be watched anyway, I'd control the narrative, make it harder for them to operate in shadows when I was shining a spotlight on everything. Melissa thought I was insane at first, but then she saw the impact. Thousands of people reached out. Other victims, people who'd felt alone and crazy. We'd created a community, a support system, a way to fight back. The threats continued, but so did we. We moved to a house, installed transparent security, Cameras we controlled, posted publicly, so anyone could see we had nothing to hide. Made our lives an open book. It was exhausting, invasive in its own way, but it was our choice, our terms. Sophie grew up understanding privacy differently than most kids. She knew about cameras, about being careful online, about the reality of surveillance in the modern world. Some would say we robbed her of innocence. I'd say we gave her awareness, tools to protect herself. 5 years after Iris first climbed through our apartment window, I stood in a courtroom again, not as a witness this time, as an advocate, testifying before Congress about surveillance laws, about stalking, about the need for stronger protections. The laws passed, not everything we wanted, but progress, a start. Ruth was there, smiling from the gallery. So was Melissa, holding Sophie's hand. We'd turned our trauma into something meaningful, hadn't let it destroy us. After the testimony, a reporter asked me a question. Do you still feel like you're being watched? I thought about it carefully. Every day, I said honestly. But I've learned to live with it, to turn it into fuel for change rather than letting it paralyze me with fear. Do you regret leaving the door unlocked that night? I almost said yes, the easy answer. But it wasn't true. No, I said finally, because that night changed everything. It was horrifying, traumatic, life-altering, but it also revealed a truth, that surveillance and stalking are everywhere, affecting thousands of people who suffer in silence. If my experience helps others, if it creates change, then no, I don't regret it. I just wish it hadn't been necessary. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.